How do we start the new series? Throw everything in there. You know what? I'm going to keep the glasses on. Probably just for this one. Maybe again later. But anyways, hey everybody, we've reached Series 9 for Take 2 Doctor Who Review. So this one, The Magician's Apprentice, which I am reviewing individually, because even though I normally consider two-parters to be a single story, when I reviewed these, when they initially aired, link in the description for the original review if you want a comparison, I was doing them one episode at a time, so it made more sense to do it in the re-review. Words are hard. But that resulted in something interesting. Because my brain has, for the last however many years, been filtering together Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar, into one story blob in my head. So what that means is watching it by itself and really drilling in on just this episode on its own, there's a lot of stuff that I hadn't noticed. Now, here's the thing. I like this episode. I've always liked this episode. But watching it, there was all kinds of stuff that I was like, okay, did I just not notice that before? Or was my like of other stuff just so great that it completely blew past me? Or did I forget? Because there were a lot of little things here and there that's like, not sure about that. The big problem with this episode, and again, I'm starting negative, but I do still like this episode, so keep that in the back of your mind. We'll get there. The big problem with this episode is that it is doing too much. And not in the recycling a whole bunch of ideas way that, say, Into the Dalek was doing. No. This is a case of just, okay, look. We have to catch up with the Doctor and Clara, who aren't where we last left them. Well, Clara more or less is, but the Doctor isn't, so we got to catch up with him. We've got the cold open, which introduces Davros, and so we now need to deal with that. We bring Missy into the mix. We've got this whole thing, granted it's linked to Davros, but we have this extended thing of this snake guy hunting down the Doctor. We bring Kate Stewart back into the mix. We have Daleks. It's a lot. And I suppose on the one hand, that's partly where it benefits being a two-parter. It doesn't feel quite as crammed as it might otherwise because it's not cramming in all those and serving up a complete story in 45 minutes. So that's where it gets away with a little bit being a two-parter. But honestly, this is a lot for one story. And especially a lot to be introduced right off the bat. But the thing is, most of those components are really good. Most. Now, I've talked about the cold open before because I did a ranking of what I think are the 10 best cold opens in Doctor Who. This one was right up there because it's fantastic. It remembers that in Genesis of the Daleks, it got established that this war has been going on so long that they've started using antiquated weapons in addition to the high-tech stuff they have. And you see that right off the bat. The hand mines, I don't know. I think they're a little bit too weird. Not too weird for Doctor Who, but too weird for Skaro. They don't feel in line with the kind of tech that we knew was going on in the war between the Thals and the Khaleds. It seems too whimsical. So the hand mines I don't really care for, but they're not really that important. And what function they serve is still important, which is basically something that strands young Davros. And then we've got that scene. And I love everything about the scene between young Davros and Capaldi's Doctor. All of his shouts of encouragement, like, your chances of survival are 1 in 1,000. Forget the 1,000, focus on the 1. Come on, tell me your name. Tell me the name of the boy who isn't going to die today.
Davros. My name is Davros. Hello?
And the push-in, the slow camera push-in as Capaldi's face just falls. Oh, man. That pumped me up for this series so much. And even knowing the resolution on this, it's still good. So, props to that. Absolutely. Then we get into this kind of the search for the doctor, which is one of those, it's not bad, but it's weird because we saw him in the opening. The whole sort of someone's looking for the doctor, and then it leads to Missy looking for the doctor and gets hold of Clara to help her look for the like that sort of layer, everyone looking for the doctor, and a little while before it gets brought into the story, that's fine, but it doesn't work quite as well when we've seen him in the cold open. So you have two narrative ideas butting heads. He's in the cold open, but then it's like, where is he? It was like, and I mean, I'm not saying narratively you can't do that and presume that he's been through something or he's hiding for maybe even something related to what we saw, but it's just in terms of the vibe you have as an audience member. You're like, well, I've already seen him, so now you're trying to build an anticipation for me to see him when I've already seen him. So that's a little odd. I love Missy's banter so much. Michelle Gomez is so good. And like, she's really good with Clara. And actually, this is a thing I keep coming back to. For all my issues with Clara, and they keep coming up, and they will continue to come up, Jenna Coleman is really good, and she has fantastic chemistry with pretty much everybody, including Missy. The two of them bouncing off each other is great, and I love Missy messing with her. That's just fun.
No, I've not turned good.
Oh, she's so great. And then, so the whole thing with the weird snake guy, I don't really know why as much time was sunk into that as it was. And I doubly don't know because we have the reveal of Boars, who's the other guy in the axe fight, that he's a Dalek puppet. And I don't think I'd ever stopped and thought about it before. That doesn't really track. Like, how long has he been a Dalek puppet? Because if he's been one pretty much since the doctor got there, then what do they need this guy for? They have somebody right there to draw him in or kidnap him or whatever. And if he was only changed right now because the snake guy showed up, what was the point of that? Like, you've got somebody on site. Do you need a secret operative as well? I don't know. Initially, it just ticked me off because I liked Boars. He doesn't do a lot here. I thought he did more, but then I remembered a lot of what I really like about him is from the supporting short that aired prior to this. And I do like him a lot. He was the kind of thing I was hoping for in a new companion. Someone not from our time, a completely different vibe. I do still like the bits he has here. You're going, dude, to the doctor when the doctor rolls in on a tank with the guitar. And okay, look. Let's talk about this whole thing. The hoodie, the sunglasses, the guitar. Totally fine with it. I know it ticked off some people. Some people consider it like a big, massive shift in his character, and it kind of is, but for me it feels justified for a couple of reasons. The first is that we kind of established the doctor his words, when Clara says, "This isn't you," he's like, "Really? Not that long ago I liked bow ties. And before that, a long scarf. This is my party and everyone's invited." So he kind of plants the idea that he is kind of picking off the buffet a whole bunch of traits across multiple regenerations. But honestly, I think that's kind of his cover story. In my mind, he's kind of going through a midlife crisis. And I'm totally okay with that. I actually think it's a very cool thing. And especially knowing where he's going to end up by Series 10, which I guess I'll kind of preview my feelings on this. Series 8, the Doctor is all buttoned up. You know, he's got this button-up thing, always buttoned up to the top button. You know, he's got a couple slightly more casual looks, but, you know, tight, grouchy, don't hug me. Here, he's relaxed, he's kicked back, he's got the guitar. First thing he does when he sees Clara is hug her. Granted, he's got a cover story of if you hug people, they can't see your face. But it's a midlife crisis. It's him having gone through Series 8, been messed with by Missy, been dangled the promise of finding Gallifrey, not getting it, and going hell with it. And going through his version of a midlife crisis. And just overdoing everything. And then we get to Series 10, and it's like he's found the balance in the middle ground between the impulses that were leading him to do this and the more restrained side that he showed early on, and he finds the balance in Series 10, and I love that journey. So, anyways, coming back to things. I mentioned Kate Stewart comes back. I'm going to keep an eye on this, but I feel like this might have been the start of the dumbing down of Kate Stewart as a character. I don't think it was necessarily intentional. I think it was an unintentional byproduct of trying to make Clara look smart. So here's a big key example. Missy does this thing where she freezes all the planes in the air. And Clara gets contacted, gets brought in to consult because they're trying to find the doctor. Fine, cool, with you so far. And they don't know what's going on. They don't know why it's happening. They don't think it's an invasion. And then Clara is the one who suggests that the planes might be used as weapons. And Kate has this reaction of, oh my God. It didn't occur to a military security person, or at least someone who exists within that world, post 9/11, that taking over airplanes might be used as weapons. It didn't occur to her until Clara said it. Like I said, I don't think the intention is to make Kate look dumb, but that's the offshoot by giving this entire revelation or possibility to Clara in order to make Clara look smart. They pumped her up by making Kate be an idiot. And that frustrates me because I like Kate. There's also kind of an odd thing that goes on with Missy. I feel like there's a little bit of rewriting, a little bit of retconning going on, or at least an attempt at it. Because Missy, when talking about the doctor, she only refers to him as her friend. Now, granted, that's what she referred to him in the two-part finale in the previous series, but this one, she kind of very specifically rejects this idea of them being romantically linked. And, this idea of what they have is deeper than that. And that, she even seems a little put off, ew, what? Which, first off, let me be very clear, is a take on their relationship I'm totally down with. I dig it. But it's also inconsistent with what we saw last series, where she calls him her boyfriend and makes out with him. And some of that you can chalk up to she's just messing with him, but it does create an inconsistency. Now, that's not to say I don't like them being kind of oddly flirtatious, but I do like the confirmation, or at least the implication that, ew, no, it's not that, but it's but it really did look like that last time. So it feels like Moffat realized, ooh, I kind of overplayed that last series. Let's dial it back a little, which, I don't object to him doing, but it does feel like a little bit of a correction. So we've got Davros back. Julian Beach, again, is great in this part. He's a great Davros. And he does a really good, he does a surprisingly good job of making this Davros seem sick and tired. I don't mean I'm sick and tired, but he seems ill and he's just kind of slumped over like this as he talks to the doctor. And that body language does a lot because, Davros has always been sickly. But now, he's able to project, even through all that makeup, the idea that he's really dying. And that's pretty good work right there. Always happy to see the Daleks again. Well, almost always. The first Dalek we see is this weird sort of 70s retro looking thing with blue bumps on it, and it's not a good look, especially for the first Dalek we see. I don't mind that kind of Dalek showing up for maybe being in the background, but being the first one, prominent, boom, there it is, ooh. And I remember wincing first time I saw it too. That pretty much brings us up to the break and the cliffhangers, because there's too many. There's too many cliffhanger elements at the end of the thing. Because first, Missy gets blasted. Then Clara gets blasted. Then they say they're going to destroy the TARDIS. Then we see the Doctor back in time again, looking like he's going to shoot a kid. That's too much. You don't need that many. Like, especially, it doesn't help that each of these are, they all fall under the wheelhouse of what I consider to be very lame cliffhangers, which are that these are situations where this is obviously not going to be what it looks like. And it's not even a question of like, ooh, how will they get out of that? It's like, well, you showed me something that I just know is not the case. I know Missy's not dead. I know Clara's not dead. I know they're not going to destroy the TARDIS. And I know the Doctor's not going to kill a kid. And so, despite piling up 4 cliffhangers, there's no tension in any of them. So, that's the very end of the episode is a bit of a... But what works in here works really well. At least it does for me. I love Missy and her threatening banter with Clara. I love her flirty stuff with the Doctor. I do like this iteration of the Doctor. This was actually the point where I'm like, yeah, with Capaldi. Because Series 8, there were moments, but I hadn't really had that moment of clicking with him like I'd had with Smith, Eccleston, or Tennant. I clicked with him in this one. I'm like, oh, it's a facade. I get it. And that helped. And so even though I can watch Series 8 now and get that much better than I could initially, now having seen the full arc of Capaldi's Doctor, I still get really excited getting to see this again. This is quite fun. So that is The Magician's Apprentice. You rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Usual stuff to do. You know what it is. Like and subscribe. I've got merch. I've got other social media things. I've got Twitter and Instagram. And there's Patreon, which is what is paying the bills and keeping these lights on at the moment. That would help out. But if you can't, like, share, subscribe, the bell, etc., etc., etc. You don't have to, though. Because, end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.